What is going on YouTube and weight loss warriors? It's your boy C Dub and I'm back with another video. Today guys, I'm sitting down and interviewing Josh. He's lost 160 pounds using intermittent fasting. This guy is amazing. He's totally transformed his life and I cannot wait to show you guys his story. I'm going to have that sit down interview right after this. What is going on YouTube and weight loss warriors? It's your boy C Dub, and today I'm with a special guest. So his name is Josh, and I'm going to let him introduce himself to you right here. What's happening, Josh?
Hey, what's up, C Dub? This is Josh Transforms. What's up, guys?
All right, guys. And the reason that I have Josh coming on the show today to sit down and talk with me on my channel is because this guy's transformation is must-see TV. And us as an intermittent fasting community, I think the more successful people we can see standing in front of us, the better. So I want to first start by asking you, before we even get into the intermittent fasting and the weight loss journey part of it, what was your aha moment? What were you doing when you got up and said, because the starting weight, guys, was 360 pounds. So you're 360 pounds, you're morbidly obese. What moment is it where you just, boom, this is it, I'm changing? Tell me about it.
Yeah. So, I had been obese basically my entire life. Starting as a very young age, at about 4 or 5 years old, I started gaining weight, and it just continued to explode up and through my teenage years. I think I graduated high school. I was already over 300 pounds, but I peaked at 360 when I was in my early 20s. And I had applied. I was going to university, to college, but I was at a regional campus, so I was still living at home with my parents at the time. And part of my program was going to require me to relocate to the main campus, which is about 2.5 hours away, and actually move off and be on my own. And I knew from experience from visiting one of my friends at a different college campus that being on campus and at university requires a lot of walking around to classes and stuff. And I remember specifically when I visited him one day, we were walking with a group and I couldn't keep up. I was flat out of breath. My legs were killing me. And I was I was at 360 pounds. I couldn't do all that kind of movement and walking around. So for me, when I realized I had to switch and go move off and live on campus at college, that's when I knew that if I had any shot at getting through that and having a good time in college, I didn't want it to be a miserable experience, that I had to do something about my weight. And so I literally came home that day and I joined and signed up at my local gym. I'm from a very small town. So I went to a local gym, and I didn't know anything about nutrition or dieting or anything like that. I'm from the South. I grew up on the typical Southern foods like fried chicken and biscuits and stuff like that. So my family didn't know anything about nutrition. So the only thing I did was just cut out the junk food and cut out sodas and started walking on a treadmill. But that was my aha moment when I knew I had to make a change.
You know, I actually say a lot of times the common sense diet, right? Cut out sodas and cut back on the junk food. And that right there alone will get you started in weight loss. And so many people don't understand that. But I want to take a minute since you mentioned it. So take me through going to the gym for the first time. You obviously didn't work out before that. You're walking to the gym. Were you embarrassed? Did it feel like you were out of place? Or did you just say, this has to be done, I'm going to grind at it?
Yeah, it's a funny thing because I had actually tried to go to the gym a couple of times earlier in my life, when I was a teenager and so on, but it was always with a friend or with a buddy or something like that. And I never felt great. I was always a little bit self-conscious about how I looked and how I fit in with the rest of the people there. And being from a small town, everybody kind of knows everybody. And so everybody that went to my gym was fit and in shape and played football and that kind of stuff. So I definitely stood out. And, working out with somebody else, I couldn't ever really keep up with what they were doing. And it wasn't until I went by myself, and this is what I preach on my channel too. It's one of the things I talk about is going at your own pace and not letting somebody else try to push you past what you're comfortable doing, because that's the quickest way you can burn out and lose hope and give up. And so when I started going by myself, I was able to pace myself and go at my own pace. And for me, I had an ankle injury that basically prevented me from walking for more than 10 or 15 minutes on a treadmill, at a decent pace, at a weight loss pace per se. So that's all I could do when I started out, was just walk 10, 15 minutes on a treadmill, and then my ankle would cramp up and I was done. But that was my start. And I just kept going every day and doing that until I finally built up the endurance to be able to do more and more, and slowly progressed into doing it on an incline or at a faster speed. But I just kind of blocked everybody else out and knew that I was doing it for me this time, and I didn't care what anybody else thought at that point.
All right. One other question about how tall are you?
I am 5'9".
So you were 5'9", 360. Just to put that in perspective, I'm 5'9", and I was 310. And guys, I struggled. So you're adding on another 50 pounds heavier than me. It must have been tough to get off the couch.
Yeah, it definitely was. I've been pretty blessed in the fact that I was always a pretty flexible guy, and even for my size, I could move around decently. But it definitely was a struggle. And by the time I got into my early 20s, carrying that kind of weight around for as long as I did, definitely was taking its toll on my body. I remember one day specifically that, literally getting up from the couch, I don't think I slipped a disc in my back, but I definitely pulled something in my lower back, and it put me out of commission for about 2 or 3 weeks. I couldn't even get out of the bed. And it was all because of me being that overweight and just not being mobile enough to move around and do basic things.
Yeah. So, I know we've talked a little bit prior to this conversation, you and I. So, your total loss was 160 pounds, correct?
Yep.
So,
Today, I'm 200 flat today. So
160 pounds. So in a 160-pound weight loss, you didn't intermittent fast the whole time. So how far into it before you discovered intermittent fasting?
So I'm your classic rebound dieter, I guess you'd call it. So when I started out, like I said, I didn't know anything about dieting or nutrition. I was broke. I was a college kid. I couldn't afford supplementations or a trainer or personal coach or anything like that. So everything I did, I had to research on my own and learn about it. And so for me, it started out, like you called it, the common sense diet, just cleaning up stuff and going to the gym and doing cardio. I didn't know anything about weightlifting or anything like that. And as I lost some weight doing that, I think I probably lost 40 or 50 pounds just doing that. And I was feeling good. I went through college and everything, made it through, had a great time. By the time I got through college, I think I had lost a total of 80 pounds. So I was down to about 280, 290, somewhere in there. Still pretty overweight, but I'd lost a decent amount of weight. But then I got relocated from my first job after college, and I went through a deep depression. I was isolated. It was the first time I'd been super far away from family and friends. I really didn't like what I was doing for work, and I just hit a point where I gave up and I stopped working out. I went back to eating. I was literally ordering fast food for both dinner and lunch every day, having delivery to my house. I was that guy that just sat at home and never left my house, to the point that where I'd even order delivery food to have them bring me a 2-liter soda just because I didn't want to go to the grocery store and buy one. So obviously I gained all the weight back. I was back up to about 340, I think. And I carried that around again for almost another year. And so fast forwarding a little bit, I moved to Atlanta, Georgia, and got back closer to family and friends. And then I met a girl who's now my wife, and we dated for a little bit. And then after about a year and a half, I proposed to her, and I decided that for our wedding date, which we set for 1 year out, that I was going to lose the weight for sure this time and keep it off. And that's when I really dug into trying to learn as much as I could about weight loss. And that's when I came across intermittent fasting. So not to go too in depth there, but to answer your question, I lost about 80 pounds up front, gained it back. And then when I took my second attempt at weight loss, that's when I dug in and found out about intermittent fasting.
Oh, that's amazing. So when your wife met you, you were morbidly obese.
Yeah. I was 350. Well, I'd say probably 340-ish, somewhere in there. I hadn't gained all the weight back, but definitely I was well over 300 pounds when I met my wife and started dating her.
Me too. I actually have a before and after that I'm working on right now, where my son and I are standing in my pants that I wore at my wedding, and we're both fitting in them, which is crazy because when I met my wife, I was morbidly obese too. Amazing that they stick with you when you're like that. It really shows the commitment of your wife, because it's obviously not about the physical, which is
Right.
what we all hope for, right? So, all right. So when you find intermittent fasting, tell me about why it's different with intermittent fasting. Why do you feel like this time, is not going to be like last time?
Well, everybody always preaches about it being a lifestyle change, right? And I couldn't agree more. I learned that the hard way, that if you try to do something to lose weight that's outside of something that you can maintain, then it's not going to work, right? It's not going to be a long-term fix. You have to find something that can literally be your lifestyle in order to keep the weight off. And for me, I was following the typical eat 6 or 7 small meals a day to keep your metabolism burning. And it was just miserable for me because I like to feel full when I eat. And so eating small meals spread out throughout the day like that was it never worked for me. I always felt hungry. I always felt like I didn't have energy. So when I came across intermittent fasting and realized that I didn't have to eat breakfast, I didn't, I never liked breakfast anyway. I don't wake up starving in the morning. So for me, intermittent fasting was just a natural fit for many reasons. For one, I didn't have an issue with just drinking coffee, black coffee and water for long periods of time and curbing my hunger with the caffeine that way. But being able to eat 1 or 2 meals a day, but have larger meals that actually made me feel full, would just work so much better for me. And so it was a natural fit, and I've been doing it ever since. Even though right now I don't want to lose any more weight. I've been at my goal weight for a while now. I still intermittent fast, Monday through Friday, sometimes 6 days a week, just because it fits my lifestyle. It comes natural to me.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I'll do OMAD forever. And main reason is just because I'm at maintenance too, but it's like I don't ever want to go back. And it's just so much easier to not worry about food, man. So much easier.
I was also doing the counting calories and tracking macros, which I have nothing against. I still believe in that. It works. I use my
Absolutely.
fitness pal. I've made videos on my channel about how to do that, and it definitely worked for me. But with intermittent fasting, for me, I don't find that I need that. I don't have to track my calories or anything. Just by only eating 1 or 2 meals a day, even if I eat enough food to make me full, I'm not going over my calorie limit for the day, especially not with the way I train in the gym. So it's a natural fit.
Yeah. So you said so you would break though on the weekends, which I think I just did a video on too, which I think is pretty an interesting way of doing it. My dad also does that. Explain kind of what your week looks like versus your weekend.
Yeah, so my week, again, Monday through Friday, I'm pretty strict with it. I literally drink 2 or 3 cups of black coffee in the morning, no sugar, no cream or anything like that. And then excuse me, the first thing I do when I get up out of the bed is I drink a huge, like 42-ounce glass of water. I feel like hydrating your body first thing when you get out of bed is super important, and it always makes me feel better. So I do that, and then I have a couple of cups of coffee, and then I sip on water until about 1 or 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and then I have my first meal, which is usually I try to get my workout in. I try to train in a fasted state if I can. Obviously, with work and everything, that's not always doable, but um, I try to have my meal around 1 or 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and then I eat again in the evenings, but try to be done eating before 8 p.m. And so it's literally 2 meals a day. The only thing I have outside of that is if I do train between my 2 meals, I'll drink BCAAs during my workout, and that's it. And so for the weekends, the only reason I say I don't fast, sometimes I do just because it is my lifestyle and I do it without even thinking, right? But sometimes we do wake up and my wife likes to go get breakfast or something somewhere. And so I will go eat breakfast. But I find that if I eat breakfast, I'm not hungry for lunch. And so I end up still only eating 2 meals a day, but I'm just not fasting. So I'll have breakfast and dinner usually.
Okay. Well, yeah. I mean, hey, that makes perfect sense. So now I want to talk briefly about your weight training, because that's obviously just a huge part of your channel and a huge part of who you are. So when did weights come into the picture? How far into your journey the second time around were you like, I'm hitting the weight room up, and how did you get started in that? Let's put it that way.
Yeah, so when I first started looking into researching nutrition and everything, like I said, on my second time around, and when I came across intermittent fasting, I also knew that I didn't want to spend hours and hours on the treadmill every workout because I had actually went through a phase where I'd messed up and damaged my metabolism prior when I was losing weight the first time because I'd cut my calories so low and I was just spending hours on the treadmill doing cardio that I was basically in starvation mode and my body was holding on to fat, right? And so I knew that I didn't want to have to do that again. And I decided to pick up weight training instead of doing cardio. And I just, to be honest with you, I fell in love with it. It came natural to me as far as lifting weights. I started researching that and reading books. I read Starting Strength by Mark Ripto. And so learning how to do the powerlifting moves, how to perfect your form on the big compound movements like squatting and deadlifting and bench pressing. And it just became a natural fit to me. I got into powerlifting for a little bit. Um, and obviously I started to notice that, I was getting stronger. My body was leaning out. I knew I was eating clean and healthy while doing the intermittent fasting. And I know a lot of people say that you can't build muscle and lose weight too, but I'm a perfect example that you can. I've never really ate in what they call a bulking phase, right? I've never ate surplus calories to try to gain muscle, and I've packed on quite a bit, even while eating in a caloric deficit and doing fasting and all of those type of things. Because I train really hard, I focus on resistance training and the heavy compound movements, and that is the basis of who I am today. I'm the guy that kind of lost the weight, but got into bodybuilding and kind of doing that stuff as well.
Well, I think you said something because I actually got into an argument one time because a guy said it was physically impossible to lose weight and gain muscle. But I don't know if you saw my little small transformation, but I did a 6 weeks where I lifted weights and I ended up losing 6 pounds, but I lost all kinds of inches and I gained a bunch of muscle in that 6 weeks. And the guy was telling me I was wrong. And I was like, no, what you don't understand is the protein that you're intaking, right, when you're eating your intermittent fasting is going to repair and build your muscle while you're still burning the fat off of your body if you have the fat to burn. So you're a prime example of that. And I personally stress to all of my viewers that now I don't think you need to lift weights in the beginning. I don't think you need to exercise in the beginning because you're morbidly obese and it's just so hard and that'll make you quit. But as you start to lose, when you hit that plateau, adding weight training in will get you going again because it just burns so much energy to do the weight training that you can't help but get in fat burning mode so much quicker. So I think
Oh,
you're right on track.
absolutely. The amount of calories that I burn when I'm doing, squats and deadlifting and that kind of stuff blows out the amount of calories that I'd ever burn walking on a treadmill for an hour or whatever. And I can do that and actually feel, that I'm getting something out of my workout. And I'm also a competitive person and I'm motivated by results. So obviously losing weight's one thing that motivates you. You see the number going down the scale or you see your clothes fitting better. But also for me in the gym, I love to see progress in my lifts and getting stronger. And so all of those things are driving factors and what kept me motivated to continue this lifestyle. And so again, it was a natural fit for me. But going back to what you were saying a few minutes ago, I think the intermittent fasting has a lot to do with the building muscle, even while in a caloric deficit, because I think by eating in a fasted state like that, by fasting and then eating 1 or 2 meals a day, your body learns to utilize the nutrients in a more efficient manner, right? So when it's only getting 1 or 2 meals a day, it's going to take those nutrients and use them in the most efficient way possible. And so if you're weight training, it's going to utilize that protein to fuel your muscle repair and muscle growth.
Yeah. I got two other questions for you. One of which is, so you talked about straight weightlifting and being competitive, and it kind of brought me to think slightly about CrossFitness. Have you ever messed with CrossFitness, or is that something you're not really interested in?
I've never done CrossFit, to be honest. I've done a couple of other kinds of classes. So my wife does kickboxing class. I've done some of that before, but I've never trained in a CrossFit gym.
Okay.
I've always done I've done bodybuilding and I've done powerlifting, but I've never done CrossFit. So it's different, and I preach to everybody that you got to find what you like. I
Oh,
know a lot of
absolutely.
guys get into it. Obviously, John Glaud, Obese to Beast, which everybody should know, is a huge fan of CrossFit, and he's been into that for a while now. But you just got to find what works for you. And I preach that to everybody. If it's rock climbing, if it's, running marathons, whatever it is, some
Absolutely.
sort of physical fitness activity, I preach making small changes up front and then it has a ripple effect because the more little small changes you make, it'll lead you down a path and eventually you'll find something that you like that'll keep you active. Because, everybody says they fall in love with fitness, but that's not true for everyone. Not everybody's going to fall in love with going to the gym and lifting weights, but I promise, and I preach that on my channel, that if you make small changes, you'll eventually find something that you enjoy doing that is physically active.
Yeah, I've said, like, if you have two twins and they're walking the exact same path, but at some point, one of them makes a 5% change in the path. Over the course of time, they're going to be greatly apart from each other. And that's what it is. It's just making a small change and a small change. And don't make the second change until you've got the first change down. And once you've got the first change down, it's become part of who you are, then you make the second change. But my last question for you is, so I got a guy tomorrow, Google searching intermittent fasting, and this interview comes across, and they don't know what to do. They don't know how to get started. Not necessarily in fasting, just in weight loss in general. This person's watching us sit here and talk. How do you help them? What do you say to them to get them started on their journey?
Yeah, I would say what I tell people that's never done anything around nutrition or weight loss is, for me, fasting, just like weight training isn't for everyone, fasting's not for everyone. It's something you want to dip your toes in. Start by, if you're somebody that eats breakfast, that's used to eating breakfast every day, you're not going to want to just skip that and try to go without eating until 12 or 1 o'clock, like most people do, the following the 16 hour fast like I do. I would recommend just trying to delay your meals slowly over time. So maybe push breakfast back an hour, 2 hours, and just keep pushing that back and let your body adjust to it. That's the key, is you got to make small changes with everything, right? It doesn't matter if it's weight training, if it's dieting and nutrition. Making small changes helps your body adapt and helps you get used to it, because if you push yourself too far, it's the quickest way to burn out and give up. And that's exactly what you don't want to do, right? That's how so many people get discouraged and throw in the towel, is they try to take on too much at one time. Same example is, somebody that goes out and they're on YouTube. There's so much information like this out here on the internet these days. It's easy to go research, and you start learning about all these things about keto and fasting and this training and that training. And if you try to take all of that and incorporate it at once, you're going to burn out. You're going to overload yourself and burn out and get discouraged. So just slowly starting to make little changes, whether that's cleaning up your diet, the common sense diet like we talked about earlier, cutting out some of the stuff that you think is bad, that is bad. Maybe start trying to delay some of your meals if you're interested in trying out fasting. If you're interested in going to the gym and you've never done training before, I wouldn't recommend messing with free weights or anything like that. Just do some cardio, get used to being in the environment, get used to being in the gym. Just go in there and do some cardio, and then slowly work up to doing some of the machine exercises. Learn how to build a mind-muscle connection, because if you don't know how to contract the muscle you're trying to work, then it's not going to do you any good, right? So you got to build that. And then once you get comfortable with that, progress into doing free weights and barbell exercises. So it's all baby steps, but one thing leads to another, and then you see progression, and then you see results.
All right. Well, here's the thing. I want you to tell everybody how they can find you outside of this conversation. You've got your YouTube channel. Let us know your Instagram, your Twitter, whatever they need to do to reach you. If they're watching today, how do they do that?
Yeah, absolutely. You can get me on YouTube at Josh Transforms, just like that. Josh Space Transforms. It's a fairly new channel. I haven't been posting as many videos as I would like, but I'm trying to get at least 1 to 2 videos out per week. I'm mainly the most active on my Instagram account as far as social media. And again, that's Josh Transforms, all together, lowercase. And then I also have a Facebook business page as well under Josh Transforms. So I'm all about life transformation. Whether that's weight loss or anything else, I transform my life many times over in many different ways. So I've talked about that. So if you're into that kind of stuff, or if you're into weight loss, fitness in general, then check me out.
Yeah, guys. Hey, and another place too, he and I both are in the Fast Club. So if you are already in Fast Club, you can always drop him a line there too. So I appreciate you, Josh, man. His transformation. Wait till you guys see the before and after pictures I'm going to post. And then linked down below will be his channel and his Instagram. So guys, go show him some love. Subscribe to his channel. Let him know the Weight Loss Warriors are supporting him. I appreciate all of you. I appreciate you, Josh. And I'll catch all of you on the next one. All right, peace.